One city in Indiana has decided to cap the number of rental units that are available within the city limits. I'm Tony, and this is Real Estate Investing and Landlord News. All right, so I have an interesting article for you today, and it's coming out of the state of Indiana. Now, I don't normally talk about Indiana because it's actually a pretty landlord-friendly place, but I saw this article, and it really it just rubbed me the wrong way. And it has to do with Carmel, Indiana, limiting the number of rental units that landlords can have. And I have a big problem with this, okay? It's just, I believe in property rights. I believe that you should have the ability to do with your property as you see fit, and not have the government limiting, basically creating a monopoly for those people who are lucky enough to already have properties there. You know, that's my problem, okay? So what you could end up with is saying, the government coming in there saying, okay, just arbitrarily, we can have 1,000 rental units within the city limits. And there are some landlords out there who will buy up all the properties, own the full 1,000, and then nobody nobody else can get into that market. Nobody can compete with that landlord who owns the majority of the properties, and there's nothing you can do about it. So the government creates this false monopoly, and then they can drive the prices up to whatever they want. Now, I don't think that's what's going to happen. Okay, and I realize that they probably think they have good intentions, right? But once again, the government, when they put their hands into anything, they create new problems. Okay, what happens when there's limited supply of anything? All right, you know, you have the same amount of demand, but you have a limited supply. The costs go up. Costs go up. It is bound to happen, and created by the government, this problem. Okay, so you know, I feel like no one ever learns these economic lessons. It's pretty obvious what's going to happen, and the government officials who are trying to put this stuff into place, they're just dumb. They're just dumb. That's the only thing I can say about it. So before I get into the article, go ahead, hit the like, subscribe button, maybe leave a comment down below. Let me know what you think. So do you believe that putting a cap on the number of rental units within a city, first of all, do you think that's going to improve things there? Now, I do believe that having too many rental units in a single area is a negative thing for that area. I really do believe that. Now, that's mostly because the cities themselves, they don't maintain, I'm not saying that the property owners are, you know, they could be doing everything right. They could be keeping the properties up, etc. But the renters themselves, they don't maintain the property as well as an owner would in the same area. So if you have a bunch of, let's say, single family houses in a neighborhood, and let's say that, you know, there's 10 houses in this block, and 9 of them are rentals and 1 of them is owner occupied. The one house that's owner occupied, the person's going to probably take better care of that home than the other 9 who expect their landlord to maintain them. You know, like renters, they oftentimes, they won't go out and be planting flowers or, you know, going out and doing nice landscaping projects or any of that stuff, right? The landlord, they might keep the property clean, they might keep it well maintained, but it's going to be very basic, and that's it. You know, there's not going to be nothing special about it. So you will definitely see a difference in quality between a renter house and a owner occupied house. I do agree with that. Not to mention that because of the transient nature of a lot of renters and the fact that a lot of renters in some areas are lower income, there could be much more problems in terms of like crime and, you know, just nuisances. Okay. So, I mean, I understand, like I said, I understand what the city itself is probably trying to do. But when it all comes down to it, we have to talk about property rights. And if a person purchases a property and then is not allowed to rent it out, and we're taking away their rights. We're taking away their right of free use of their property that they own. And this is part of the reason I'm so much against these bans of even Airbnb, even though I don't do Airbnb. I'm against bans of them, just blanket bans of Airbnb for the exact same reason. But anyway, let me get into this article. This article is coming from fox59.com, and it says, Carmel to cap number of single-family rental homes available within city limits. Let's get into it. During a meeting Monday evening, the Carmel City Council passed an ordinance that will cap the number of single-family rental homes available within city limits. According to a synopsis included in the Council's Monday agenda, Ordinance D2770-25 requires owners of residential dwellings to register and obtain a permit before letting a residential dwelling, and limits the number of authorized residential dwelling permits to 10% of all homes within a subdivision or the city of Carmel as a whole. So what you'll end up with, right? And they're saying, oh, we don't want more than 10% of the households here that are rentals, thinking that, oh, we're going to prevent our city from becoming a city of renters only. The problem, though, is that when you say, oh, only 10%, well, you're greatly limiting, first of all, the number of people who can move into the city who can't afford to buy the home. So you're going to basically cut off a lot of the lower income people who otherwise would have been able to live there, which might actually be their intention. Okay, they might be saying, hey, we don't want poor people here. But it really sucks. Let the people who own the property, do what they want with it, instead of the city dictating that. The other thing you're going to do is create a black market. And that should be another obvious outcome of this whole situation. You're going to have people who just don't register the homes, just rent them out. Rent them to whoever the hell they want. Don't ask the city for permission. Don't care, and just get away with it. And that's the truth. The other thing that I don't like about the ordinance is it singles out single-family homes. Meanwhile, there's no. I realize that you can't really put these sort of limits on multifamily and all that, but you're punishing single-family landlords to the benefit of these large corporate landlords who own the mega apartment complexes. Remember, most single-family homes are owned by small mom and pops, such as myself, people who might live in the same town, might live right down the street from their property, and they provide a lot of the naturally occurring affordable housing. So guess what? There's not going to be a lot of affordable housing in this city. Rent prices are going to be driven up, and you're going to scare away a lot of landlords who otherwise would have been investing in your city, rehabbing properties, etc. Okay? Now, that's fine. You know what? And what I want to do real quick is I want to look up on my phone exactly the demographics of Carmel, Indiana, in terms of like income and all that, right? Because I'm just curious, like, how big is this place? Okay, so overview. Carmel is a suburban city in Hamilton County, Indiana, United States, immediately north of Indianapolis, with a population of 99,757 as of the 2020 census. And the city spans 49 square miles across Clay Township and is bordered by the White River to the east and Boone County to the west. Okay, so that gives you a little bit of perspective of how big it is. It's about 100,000 people live there. It's just north of Indianapolis, right? So it's a suburban place. And in terms of, let's see if they have their, it looks like they have, pretty much had pretty explosive growth. The county only had a population of 37,000 back in the year 2000. So yeah, they've had a very good amount of population growth within the county. And it looks like, let's see if they have any income statistics in here. Okay, the median home price was $455,000, and the median household income is about $135,000, according to the 2024 estimate. Okay, so this is a wealthier suburb north of Indianapolis, right? Now, that's fine. Okay, I have no problem with that. I live in a nice area of Omaha, okay, and I would like to keep it nice as well. My issue, though, is that, simply put, as I said, property owners should be allowed to do what they want with their properties. I own a rental house, where I get paid a very high amount of rent in a nice part of town in the suburban part of Omaha. Yet I imagine that, like what would happen for the small mom and pop landlords who want to have a rental house and they're like, nope, nope, we've already reached our quota. That second home that you own, maybe you sold your starter home and moved into a bigger one. You can't rent it out now. You can't rent it out because we don't want to allow that. Okay, whatever. Okay, complete joke. This is ridiculous. It should be illegal. Like I just don't agree with it. Anyway, put a comment in the comment section down below. Let me know what you think. I'll put a link to this article in the description so you can read the whole thing, see what they're trying to propose. Okay.